What if one of the biggest obstacles to your future isn't failure? It's success from your previous season. What if the person you're trying so hard to remain is the very person you're not meant to be? Why do we cling to versions of ourselves that no longer fit, even when we know that we've changed? What's going on, my curious and intellectual people? Welcome back to Intriguing Insights, where deep conversations meet everyday life, looking beyond the obvious to uncover meaning, challenge assumption, and find wisdom in places most people overlook. I'm your host, Terrence Tyler, and today we exploring the question that affects nearly every person at some point in their life. Why do people stay attached to identities they've already outgrown? I see people who've grown but still introduce themselves through old stories. I see adults still being controlled by labels they received as children. I see people remaining in roles, relationships, careers, and mindsets that no longer reflect who they are. I see someone who says, I'm just shy. I'm the responsible one. I'm the screw up. I'm the strong one. I'm the people pleaser. Even when their life proven otherwise. So, why is it easier to stay familiar than to become new? Because familiar feels safe, even when it's limited. People often stay attached to old identities because they know who they were there. And becoming new requires you to step into uncertainties. And uncertainties feels uncomfortable. The old version may no longer fit, but at least it's predictable. Now, is it possible that we're not afraid of change itself? Maybe we're not afraid of change. We're afraid of what change is going to require us to leave behind. Change means letting go of familiar labels, old habits, comfortable environments, and versions of ourselves that we spent years on building. It's not the new life that scares us. It's the thought of releasing the old one. But why do we keep defending identities that clearly are limiting us? Because identity is familiar. So we defend it. We justify it. We hold on to it. Not because it's helping us, but because it's familiar. So, for a person such as myself that been in survival mode for a long time and came home from prison, jumped right back into the workforce and got in survival mode for 5 years straight before realizing that it has derailed me and deteriorated me from what my purpose and goal was in the long run. I have to ask a question. Does holding on to this identity help me to stay in survival mode? Could we actually be afraid of losing the version of ourselves that helped us survive? Absolutely. Without a shadow of doubt in mind. Many of the identities that we hold on to got us through all the difficult seasons. They helped us cope, protected ourselves, and make it through the things that we faced. But here's the problem with that. What helped you survive may not be what you need to help you grow. So, why do we often feel guilty when we start changing? Well, because change feels like betrayal to the people, habits, and identities that we've grown comfortable with. When you begin growing, not everyone is growing with you. Your priorities shift, your mindset changes, and your life starts moving in different directions. And that can create guilt, not because you're doing something wrong, because you're no longer living the way that you used to. So here's a powerful truth. Sometimes guilt is not a sign that you did something wrong. Sometimes it's evidence that you're leaving something behind that no longer fits. But what if our old identity is not wrong? It's just outdated. Well, that's often exactly the case. Not all old identities are unhealthy, but some of them serve a purpose for a particular season. They help you learn, grow, and survive to get you where you are today. And then the problem comes when we try to live in a season that we've already outgrown. Growth isn't about becoming someone completely different. Your old identity may have been right for yesterday, but don't let yesterday's version of you keep today's version from growing. One of the most overlooked truths of human nature is this: people don't just become attached to who they are, they become attached to who they've been. Identity is more than just a description, it's a source of certainty. It tells us where we belong, how we should act, what others expect of us, and what we expect of others. Even painful identities feel safe because they're familiar. Sometimes we do not cling to identities because they're true. We cling to them because they once protected us. Many identities begin as survival strategies. The problem occurs when survival strategies become permanent definitions. What helped you survive one season may prevent you from thriving in the next. Here's a different way to see it. Maybe growth isn't about becoming a different version of yourself. Maybe growth isn't becoming someone else. Maybe it's releasing a version of yourself that completed its assignment. Think about a child learning to ride a bike. Training wheels are valuable. The very thing that provided stability will eventually restrict movement. It's the same with identity. Certain beliefs, roles, and labels navigated one chapter of our lives. But eventually, they become too small for the person that we're becoming. So, what if outgrowing identity isn't betrayal? What if it's growth? A child outgrows clothes. A tree outgrows its pot. Growth naturally requires expansion. The healthiest version of you today isn't the one that stays the same. It's the one that keeps growing into the person that you were created to become. So, is outgrowing an identity evidence of growth? Often, it is, but not necessarily. Growth doesn't just change what you do, it changes how you see yourself. When you begin to outgrow an identity, it's usually a sign that you have learned something, healed from something, or you have stepped into a new level of understanding. Outgrowing an identity is not proof that you've lost yourself. It's actually proof that you've grown into a deeper version of yourself. So now it makes me wonder how much of your identity is based off of who you are today. Now, this is a question that is rarely asked. Many of us are still defining ourselves from old experiences, past failures, old roles, or labels we've carried for years. And we continue to introduce ourselves through stories that no longer reflect who we are. It's the things that we did when we were in college, high school, neighborhoods we grew up in, jobs we worked 5 years ago, and it's not even in the same field. We don't even do the same profession anymore. It has totally changed, and we're still defining ourselves off of these past events. But we can't fully step into who we are becoming if we continue introducing ourselves off of who we were in the past. So, this caused me to ask the question, how much is based off of who we had to be years ago? Because we build identities around survival. We had to become the strong one, the people pleaser, the protector, the achiever, the one who asked no one for anything because that was required from us in the past. But the person you had to be in the past is no longer required to be the person that you need to be today. Because a fun fact, you don't need to remain who you were in the past when God is trying to call you to be a new one. The life you want wasn't waiting on a new identity. It was waiting on you to step into the one that you've grown into. So, let's take some steps into a new identity. You ready? I'm ready. I'm be real with you. I'm currently making some adjustments in my own life. I'm doing some reconstruction, setting up for myself a life that I've been wanting for years, but I've been neglecting and pushing to the side because I was in survival mode. I was too focused on putting my best foot forward for a stability, well, for a stableness that I don't think it was ultimately meant for me, but of course it wasn't meant for me, but I was using it for stepping stones anyway. But what I did realize is that that was necessary. It was needed. As I evaluated and I analyzed the situation, I recognized what God is trying to show me then, that I needed to grow from in order to make it to where I'm at today. And to take this opportunity as the same thing, because he's going to use this to build me up to move forward to the next phase and then a phase after that. And it should all be leading towards the direction that I ultimately want to go. But anyways, I don't even know why I said that. That was really off the chart and spontaneous. I'm really not a spunky person. But back to these steps that we're going to take. Our first step, identify the label. Ask yourself, what label that I use frequently to describe myself? I'm anxious. I'm not a leader. I'm not good with people. I'm a people pleaser. I'm a helper. That's just a few. There's plenty of labels that we put on ourselves. So which one that identifies with you, that you frequently use to describe yourself, to say that's who you are, your identity? Then I want you to ask, Is this who I am, or is this who I learned to be? Be honest and truthful with yourself. Number two, examine the purpose. Ask, what did this identity do for me? Did it protect you? Did it earn acceptance? Did it help you survive disappointment? Did it keep you safe from risk? Think about it. What was it that drove the purpose of the label, that gave you a benefit, that made you feel happy, secure, safe, protected, peace, possibly? Because not all peace is actually peace. Just because you don't feel the intense emotion doesn't mean it's peace. Just saying. But what is it? Identify the purpose. Number three, look for evidence of growth. Ask, what evidence suggests that I've already outgrown from this identity? What decisions has changed? What habits has changed? What values has changed? What boundaries has changed? And number four, last but not least, give yourself permission to evolve. You are allowed to become difficult, to old labels explain. You are allowed to disappoint people's expectations of who you've been. And you are allowed to grow beyond the role that once defined you. Before we end, consider this question. What version of yourself you're still carrying already served this purpose? Not because it was bad, not because you failed, but because you've grown. The goal in life isn't to remain the same person. The goal is to become increasingly aligned with who you're meant to be. Maybe the next chapter of your life doesn't require to become someone else. Maybe it requires to have the courage to releasing someone old. And perhaps the greatest evidence is not what you have gained, but what you're willing to outgrow. If you realize today that you've outgrown a version of yourself, but you're still living in it, and this episode has helped you understand why and mostly how to move forward, click that subscribe button and follow me and share with everybody else that you feel that this can benefit them. Don't forget to comment too, man. I want to hear what y'all have to say. I want to hear how it has helped you, and possibly if something else I can do to put forth some information out there, or a podcast that I can relate to and have some experience myself that can possibly help you because of this has turned on the light bulb or ignited something else in you that you need some help with. And remember, clarity doesn't come from easy answers, but from the courage to ask the hard ones. So stay curious, stay open, and keep looking deeper. Peace.